All right, ladies and gentlemen, so I figure we might as well do a little bit of a deep dive into this reasoned race that I actually managed to win here and just pretty much try and dissect how the race itself was won. I mean, this was on the tail end of a week of the Rolling with Envy Stage 1, and it's getting quite apparent that the ACAT, this is range 2 from race ranking 570 to 725. Thankfully, I got bumped down a couple of spaces there, so I didn't have to do the advanced one. But you can easily see that these races were not quite as populated as they were early in the week. I think it's probably a trend. Most of the people had probably already done this one 2 or 3 times, really. So only 9 people in the pen for this one. So it was going to be pretty interesting to see what was going to happen here. I had a pretty good look on Zwift Power before starting the race, but at that point, we only had about 5 signups here. And I only recognized a couple of the names. So I really didn't have much of an idea who was really racing at this point. I had a look at Swift Power. I had that open on the iPad and waiting for the live update. So I was kind of, going into the race kind of blind here. 2 or 3 of the guys I knew who were raced them before. That Tracy guy in particular he was pretty much my level here. If you look at the 20-minute power, I'm currently at about 4.5. I think he was about 4.5 as well, if not 4.6. And the others a little bit below that. I think there was one 4.2, maybe 2 of those guys, and other than that, about 3.8, 3.9, but some pretty decent sprinters in there. But we go right out of the gate here, and this British guy here just decides to go off the front. At that point, he was not visible in Swift Power, so I really didn't know what to expect from that guy. And like I said, he just goes off the front here, and nobody's really too keen on following it at this point. I certainly wasn't. I was coming off the back end of a pretty hard week. I was doing Swift racing on Monday, Swift racing on Tuesday. I was playing hockey Wednesday morning. And apart from that, I've pretty much done Zone 2 and some outside riding because the weather had been great. And this was a Sunday race, so my legs were getting really, really tired. And this guy, Tracy, well, he decides to jump him. And, I'm not going to be sitting around just waiting for him to close the gap and those 2 guys working together and going off the front. And everybody can just sit around looking at each other and pretty much agree not to chase them. So I decide to bridge that gap there. And all of a sudden, we got ourselves a nice little 3-guy breakaway here right out of the gate. It's only 2 minutes in, and we're already going. And my legs at this point are screaming, "Don't do it!" But not too much that we can do about this one at this point here. We got to get out of the gate, and don't want to be caught behind as 2 guys just race off into the sunset and just leave the rest of us there to fight for third. So here we are, legs hurting, and this guy's pulling hard. Further up the road here, as everyone can see, that things have pretty much come together again, and there's a bit of a standstill right now. Nobody's doing any crazy stuff here on the slide incline. Everybody knows that we got the kicker coming up. This is the Two Bridges Loop route. We got 3 laps going on this one. So we got to scale that kicker 3 times, and that is usually where the differences are made, or at the very least, that is where you put some hurt into your legs, or someone else puts some hurt into your legs. And again, you can see this British guy, he decides to go off the front. It's a bit of a weird spot to do it, but I guess he's just banking on everybody sitting back, waiting for that kicker. And hopefully for him, I guess his plan is just to open up a big enough gap so that he can go up that climb at a reasonable watts per kilogram and not lose too much time, and hopefully get himself a gap that way. So, but at this time, I'm just going to sit in. My legs are still hurting from that first effort there. That was a bit of a, too feisty start for my liking, especially at the point with my fitness where I'm at right now. So that one really stung. So I'm just sitting in at this point here, trying to get some draft, and hopefully somebody else is going to keep it pretty close. It's pretty much happening on its own there. We got the downhill. Obviously, we got a group of about 5-6 guys here. So we're always going to go faster downhill than the breakaway guy is going to be able to. So as you can see, he's only about 3 seconds up. And given the fact that we got the climb coming up, that is no gap at all. And well, he also thinks the better of it, decides to ease off a little bit, at least for a while there. And at this point, it's basically a stalemate. He's just sitting out there cooking for no apparent reason. You can see on his watts per kilogram, he's probably thinking the better of it right now. Now he decides to put in a dig again, but at this point, the rest of us also kick it up a bit of a notch, and we know that the climb is coming up. We want to hit it with speed. And like I said, I'm not really sure what to expect with the guys I'm racing at this point here. I know this guy Tracy. He's got an insane 1 minute 1 minute effort. I think it's about 8 watts per kilogram or something like that. It's way higher than mine. So I'm really scared of this guy. So I decide to keep his wheel. He's going at a pretty hard pace here early on the climb. So I'm a little worried about what he's going to do once we actually hit the bend there. He fires off a feather. I do the same, and just decide to put up some watts here and see if I can't. I just want to basically beat him to it because I don't want to be in a situation where he accelerates and I'm going to have to follow here. So I just decide to kick it up. This is maybe a little bit too fast for my liking. The breakaway guy is not able to change pace at this point here. So I'm just going to decide to keep it going, even though I'm hurting at this point here. But, stopping in the middle of a climb and just cutting back 200 watts it's just going to put you basically at a standstill. And somebody just might jump you, and then you have to accelerate all over again, and you're going to be paying for it because you're going to have to put out way more watts than you would have had just to keep it going over cresting the top of the hill there. And I ease off because I know that the guys right behind me there, I had a 2-second gap, but they're going to catch me up easily. We got 2 laps to go here, and I have absolutely zero interest in being in the breakaway for 2 laps either way. So just easing off here, just getting the pace up and just going freewheeling, resting my legs downhill. And I expect 2 or 3 guys to come catching me here in a couple of seconds. And like I said, no reason to go into any sort of breakaway at this point here. It's just about resting your legs. Kilometers later, still the same group really, though. We got that American guy going off the front there. Big guy with a big sprint. Definitely the most powerful guy in this group. And for some odd reason, he decides to go off the front there. I mean, if I were him, if I had the sprint that he has compared to the rest of us, I would just be hanging in, and getting as much draft as I possibly could, and hope to sit with the deciding group once you actually, crest the kicker for the last time there, and basically, go for a bunch sprint, for lack of a better word, because I'm not sure whether or not he's, checking Zwift power and see who he's racing, but he had, I think, at least 250, 300 watts on the best of us to give. So there was no doubt in my mind that if we dragged this guy to the line, he was going to beat us here. And again, he's got a bit of a lead. It's only about 3 seconds. That American guy, Tracy, decides to see if he can't close it. I got to wonder why we were doing this at this point, because 3 seconds once you go up the climb that we just went over, that's nothing. I mean, unless you can, we've already decided that we showed that the last time out, we can put out 9 watts per kilogram up that climb. And unless you can do that, you're going to need at least 7-8 seconds. Otherwise, you're going to get caught or you're going to get dropped. And again, he's just wasting his energy out there, and I don't see why there's any reason to try and close him down, because he's just going to get closed down automatically. And as you can see, I'm just sitting in here saving my already very hurting legs. And at this point here, we got 4 guys in a group, and I know, again, this kicker is what's going to decide things, and I'm worried about the other American. I know he's strong. He was putting out numbers coming over the hill on the first lap, and again, he's really rolling into it here. As you can see, 5.5 watts per kilo, and he wants to hit this one with speed, and he's cranking up the pace. At this point, I got to close the gap. My legs are hurting. I really want to go easier into this climb here and just kick it once we actually hit the bend. But he wants to go fast, just, heading up the climb here. And at this point, that's hurting me. So, and he hits his feather, and I'm sitting here worried that he's going to kick. He doesn't. And then I decide to, slightly kick. And then he just opens up the red numbers there, and I just got to hang on for dear life. At this point, I'm kind of getting caught heading into the steep part of the climb a little bit too slow. So I'm going to have to put in some huge efforts there to catch up, because I kind of get the feeling that if he had 3 or 4 seconds on us going over the top here, he would be able to stay away. I think he had at least 20 to 30 watts on FTP over me. So if it became a time trial, there was a pretty good chance he was going to leave me in the dust. So I just put in what I had, managed to close the gap there, and we got rid of the other American. That's the sprinter. So dragging him to the line is pretty important that we don't do that. So I figure if the three of us here can stay away or agree on working together, that's the podium between us. And then it's just going to come down to whatever we do on the last lap here. So, and at this point here, we got a good 9-second gap. That British guy who's been in the breakaway a couple of times, he's also about 10 seconds back here, probably trying to form a bit of a pursuit with the American guy. And at this point, I just see if I can't talk to the other guys. I'm going to write a message here in a couple of seconds, just letting them know that, this is the podium. And if we work together at this point, make sure the other guys don't come back. We can basically just work out the podium between us here and see who has the best legs. So I'm going to put in a sort of a token pull here as we come around the bend. The road goes downhill just a little bit. At this point, my legs are still hurting from the kicker we just did there. Had to put in a little more power than I would have liked to do, but I take a pull right here and just, to show my goodwill. I'm willing to work for this one. I know that if we bring, as you can see, that Turpin guy there, the American, he's only about 9 seconds back. So he's going to be trying to work his way back if we just sit around here doing nothing. If we can just put in some watts per kilogram, that's going to discourage anybody who's trying to pull back. If they see us doing 2.5 or 3.0, they're going to think, all right, we can bridge this gap. If they see us putting out 4.5, maybe they'll think twice about it trying. So this is not as much as for opening up a gap. It's more to signal that the guys chasing us say, hey, we're not just going to, we're going to put in some tempo here. So if you want to catch us, you really got to work. And their legs are hurting a little bit. They might not be that interested in doing that. So Tracy takes a pretty good pull. That's a little bit over the top, I think. My legs are hurting at this point here, and I know I just got to stick to him because you never know. I mean, he might be sitting back, holding back with something here, and there's a climb coming up, so he might just use this pull to get away, and he fires off a feather there for no. I'm not really sure why he would do that. I would have held on to that one, but he signals he wants another one of us to take another pull, and the third guy in the break here, well, true to form, he goes in front and he takes his pull. So at this point, it's working out. And as you can see, the gap there to the chasing group there is opening up from 9 seconds to 12 seconds. So at this point, I think we're in a good spot. Final time coming up the kicker here, 2.2 kilometers from the finish line here, and that guy Tracy there just decides to go absolute maniac on this climb here, going into it 6.5 watts per kilogram. And like I said, I checked him out on Zwift Power. He's got a much better 1 minute effort than I do. So I'm really scared at this guy. But he's rolling into it. He doesn't kick at any point here. And I decide to kick. I have a feather. I know he doesn't. I click it out into the wrong gear. So I really don't have any other option than just go all out, to the top of the climb here, because my gear is too heavy at this point. It should have been another one. Tracy kicks, but it's a little bit too late. I came into the climb with more speed than he did, so I'm basically just pulling away from him. I am really suffering at this point here, but I get a good 2-3 seconds here coming over the top, And I just decide to keep going. I know I probably don't have a chance of beating this guy in the sprint. I think I have about 11 watts per kilogram in a sprint, but there's no way I can hold that for 15 seconds at this point of the race here. I've been suffering the whole way, and I've been doing way too much work for my liking here. So I just give it at this point. I try to get in just a little bit of breathing here, coming over the top, and I'm just going to kick here with everything I got heading downhill and hopefully just getting into the super tuck and see if I can't get a little bit of rest. I got 4 seconds at this point, but as you can see, he's not giving up. I mean, he just keeps going, keeps going, keeps going. And even though I kick again here, trying to get some more speed on the bike, and at this point here, I'm just suffering like a dog. It might as well. There's about 900 meters left of the race, but it might as well be 9 kilometers at this point here. And I am just suffering, and he's not giving up. You can see 4.6, 4.8, 5.0. And I know he's just trying to close me down, and he's right behind me. You know, it says 4 seconds only, but really we're doing 49 kilometers per hour here. That's, you know, those 4 seconds is if we're doing 30K an hour. So it's way closer than it looks. Again, you know, slight fall in the road there. I just get up into the pedals and just see if I can't increase my speed with whatever I got left. I managed to hit 51K an hour going downhill here. He's only 3 seconds behind me now. If he kicks now, if he has a sprint, I'm not going to win this one. I am giving everything I have in the tank. I got no sprint left. I'm doing 400 watts here, 48 kilometers per hour. And he kicks, but it's too late. It's too late. He hits the red numbers, but, you know, with 40 meters to go, I can relax. There's no way he's catching me here. Boy, did this one hurt, and boy, did this one feel good. I don't think I ever won an A race like this one. Usually it happens because people basically quit out, or somebody gets disqualified for not wearing a heart rate monitor or something like that. This was probably the cleanest win I've had ever in the ACAT. And, well, gotta say, I felt pretty good about this one here either way.